Good afternoon and welcome to the Bush Creek East Wildfire Information Briefing for Monday, August 28th. We are joining you from the traditional unceded territories of the Secwepemc, Silks, Okanagan, Sinex, and Ktunaxa Nation. I'm Tim Conrad, Information Officer with the Columbia Shuswap Regional District Emergency Operations Center, and joining me today is John MacLean, EOC Director, and Mike McCulley, Information Officer with the BC Wildfire Service. We are trying to get some of our people some days off right now, so we will not be monitoring the chat today for questions. You can reach out to us in other areas if you have questions. A quick update of things going on in the region. We're lucky enough to not have much for updates. Significant changes in fire conditions, which you will hear from Mike. And crews are very much working to get power restored and get into access areas and help us to move forward to recovery. Be sure to check the CSRD website and newsflash sections for more information and updates. Now I will turn things over. If he's here, we're just checking to see. No Mike McCulley yet, so we'll just hop over to John. Oh, we just got you, Mike. All right, excellent. Mike, are you ready? We'll get you started right away.
I'm ready to go, thanks.
All right, sounds good. Thanks a lot, Mike. So Mike McCulley is the Information Officer with the BC Wildfire Service, and he'll have an update for us on the outlook.
I think, how's my audio? Tim, are we good?
Your audio is good. You did vanish from our screen, so if you're going to be putting your share screen on, that's okay. So we've got no video from you right now.
Okay, my video is on here at my end, so I'm not sure what's going on, but that's okay. Let's try that.
There you go. We got video now.
All right, thanks for the patience. Again, Mike McCulley, as Tim described, I'm the Fire Information Officer on the Adams Complex, talking about the Bush Creek East Wildfire K21633. We'll start with the size. Really no big change to the size of the fire over the last week almost at this point. 43,000 plus hectares at this time, still classified as out of control. Today we have 93 structure protection personnel, 97 still working on the fire, and we have a large contingent of firefighters today, upwards of 250 firefighters on the ground, and that includes some South African firefighters that came to us today, and we're embedding them out on the line, and also some stat hires from within the community that are starting to work for us on this fire. We have 84 support staff, people like myself working to drive business behind the scenes, and a large contingent of heavy equipment still exists on this fire. It's a big fire. There's lots of line to work, so we have about 80 pieces of iron out there. And between this fire and the other fire that we have, the Rossmore Lake fire, we have 17 helicopters that we share across the complex. I want to talk about the weather first and a little bit about some of the risks that we're seeing. So today, still pretty smoky out there. We do know that the winds are going to pick up a little bit tomorrow as a small system moves through. It will be nothing like the winds we saw a week ago or more that caused the major growth on this fire. That should start happening sometime tomorrow morning. We may even see some gusts later in the day today, but for now we still have fairly smoky conditions, which is keeping the fire behavior relatively quiet. We have seen fire behavior pick up each day as it got warmer and drier, today being the warmest and driest day of the last 4. And I know when I was out on the fire yesterday, we started to see a little bit of open flame here and there, a few more columns of smoke. And you're going to see that through the day today and also through tomorrow. We are hopeful to receive some precipitation later tomorrow through the night. That's Tuesday night. But we're still not sure how much that looks like. The last time we had precipitation on this fire, it was very broadly ranging in volume across the whole fire. It ranged from 1 millimeter to 15. So we will expect something similar, and we'll expect the winds to do similar things. So summarize the weather. It's been warm, hot, and dry, which has caused fire behavior to pick up a little bit. However, no major growth on the fire, just a lot of fuel burning off within the perimeter. We're seeing more smoke each day. And of course, we're looking at a little bit of wind out of the southwest coming through tomorrow. And then hopefully some precipitation tomorrow night. Past that, we're expecting temperatures to go back to more seasonal, a little bit cooler, little more recovery at night, recovery being more humidity, which keeps fire behavior down. And of course, this time of year, the days are getting a little shorter very quickly and the nights are getting a little longer. That is a huge help for us on the fire front. It might not seem significant, but it is. Just allows less burning period in the day, less drying conditions, and more, more significant time at night to recover. So I will now share my screen, Tim, if that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
And please let me know when you can see that.
Yeah, you're up.
Thank you. All right, so areas of focus today will be, I want to talk a little bit first about the flank on the southeast down here by Sorrento. So this has been a really active flank. I wouldn't say really active, but more active than it has been today. And part of the reason was the inversion was pretty strong last night, meaning that the cooler air was lower down in the valley, up at the top of the hill. And this is a very steep section of fire in here, too steep for ground crews to work. Up at the topper portions of that fire, it was warmer and drier early on in the day. I saw that last night when I was out. This flank was pretty active, and it stayed that way through this morning simply because of that inversion. But again, no real growth over here. This fire's just, slowly burning and doing its thing in this really steep ground that we can't put crews on. So from a suppression perspective, we have completed line adjacent to this flank of the fire up as far as we can go until it sort of peters out into some steeper country, up into this area here where we can't work it too much anymore. And then our crews have also been working machine line as a contingency plan only, up along above the tracks, above the community of Sorrento, and they'll keep working on that. And the line will slowly creep a little further uphill as they move to the east. We do not plan to do any ignitions off of that line at this time. It's simply a contingency. We are very aware we have a bit of a wind event coming and a bit of a change of the weather. So what we're doing to hold this fire where it is using our heavy bucket ships to just continue to apply water onto it. They've been flying there pretty much all week, just putting a lot of water on the fire to cool it and slow it and sort of hold it until it either slowly comes into workable terrain or it gets cooler in temperature and we can get some access through it, or we can get some containment on it just from heavy rainfalls and a change in the seasons. So that's what's going on the southeast flank. I want to talk now about the Lee Creek shadow, I'll call it. So down on these shoulders, as I've been talking about for a few days, we do have crews working there to just try to bring the fire right tight to the line and make sure that these are solid and firm lines on the shoulder, and we can hold this fire to protect all of these infrastructure and community down and below. They've had good success. The line is pretty much complete. They have not really been able to remove the fuel with small hand ignition simply because it wasn't really receptive to burning. Sometimes, if the fuel isn't going to take fire and it's not going to clean up good, there's really no sense in burning part of it. You just create a bit of a mess and then you can't really manage it later. So we're feeling pretty good about the lines we have along these two shoulders in the Lee Creek shadow. Moving out to the eastern flank today, not a lot of new updates here, not significant growth. Again, we continue to work as much as we can with equipment in this area to build line. Eventually, we'll get more staff out onto those lines and start working them a little bit, but our staff have been up looking into these larger drainages up into this I believe the headwaters of the Scotch Creek up in here, just to make sure that we're understanding how fire works in this area. We have been talking to some of the locals about what the winds do. That's really important for us. We're always keen to get their knowledge and have their understanding of the land, but lots of good work going on with equipment in these areas. No big new growth above Magna Bay though at this time, or above Celesta. I think the other thing that I will talk about briefly is just the infrared scanning that we've had going on. So this area of the North Shuswap above Lee Creek and Scotch Creek, Celesta, we call this Division Charlie, and we did have our infrared drone scanning in Division Charlie and up through the Adams Lake, and that's been going on for several days now. What they're doing is they're using an infrared scanner attached to a drone to work along the edges and the perimeters of our fire and identify hot spots that our crews can then go in and find. The drone operator provides coordinates for those spots in the morning. They get them around 6 a.m. and then they go to the crews, and the crews can be a little more effective in going to find the spots and putting them out. We basically call that a seek and destroy tactic. So that is what's been going on in this area. We're scanning because fire activity has been a little quieter and allows us to do that. So we have also been using drones to scan up in the Adams Lake area, and we will continue to do that over the next several days. So maybe at this time, I will leave it there and see if there are any, I'll pass it back to you, Tim, and you can see if there's questions.
Excellent, Mike. Yeah, I just had we had actually a couple of questions for you. We were just wondering if there's any planned ignitions in the area, particularly in the Sorrento area today. And if you could give us some sense of what's going on that front.
Yeah, so again, we do have the guard complete up to the height of land here, paralleling the fire. We also continue to work contingency guard to the east. And as I mentioned earlier, we have no plans to do any ignitions in there right now. These are simply contingency options. We won't be using drip torch. We won't be using anything larger than that. No aerial ignitions at all. We do use drip torch and our hand crews do ignitions quite often, day to day. It's just part of their regular business. They're using that tactic all the time to firm up their lines. No containment line is considered complete or reinforced until the fuel has been removed adjacent, often with the use of fire. But for the Sorrento area, I can't confirm there's nothing like that that's going to happen in the next short term, being at least the next several days. We have no plans for larger ignitions in there at all at this time.
Excellent. And one more on that note, I know residents are concerned when they see fire, but sometimes it can be good for forest fuels to burn in an area and just let it monitor. Can you give us a little more information on that?
I can. So I'll use an example last night down in the Hilliam Road area, just as I was coming out of the Scotch Creek portion of the fire. There was a small column of smoke that was going up in some flat ground, and certainly that must look concerning, particularly after the event that all of these communities have been through. But in that case, it was a pocket of fuel that had been green and not receptive to fire at the time when the winds moved and the fire came through. But now that things have dried out and conditions, fire indices have climbed and conditions have improved, those pockets of fuel start to burn off. So what we do is we watch for that and then we go address them if needed. In this particular case, there was some dangers in there. There was birch trees coming down, but our crews did go in. They used a sprinkler system to kind of wrap around it a little bit. They used some drip torches to clean that up a bit, and letting that fire burn off, not just from a forest management perspective, Tim, but also from a fuel hazard mitigation perspective. If we can burn off those pockets of unburned fuel or let them burn off naturally, that's good for reducing the hazard generally within a fire. The other example would be as I was driving out yesterday, coming out of the Squilex Road, you could see very clearly some active fire up on the hill again above Sorrento. But what that is remaining fuel that didn't burn when the fire passed through the first time, just burning itself off. No great risk. There's no big ember showers that are going to come from that. These are small individual trees or little pockets that are burning off. And you'll see more and more of that through today. And you'll see that again tomorrow as the winds pick up. This is a large fire, 43,000 hectares, and there is lots of unburnt fuel throughout the area. And that's why for the BC Wildfire Service, our tactics include working to firm up the edges and the perimeters of these fires. I talked about infrared scanning earlier. There's a reason why we don't scan the whole fire and try to put out every hot spot. It's just too big of an area, for one, and B, reinforcing these guards and perimeters by working in on the edges is the best tactic that we have. So that's what we do. We work around the edges. We let those pockets of unburnt fuel remove themselves and clean up and monitor the risk, of course. And if anything becomes of concern, we can utilize our air assets or our ground crews to go manage that.
Excellent. Thanks, Mike. I'm going to invite media questions for Mike now. So if anybody has questions for him, if they could put their hand up, we'll take those media questions at this point in time while I'm waiting for a moment for people to put their hand up. Just a reminder to residents that are impacted, especially if they have health issues, in relation to smoke, to make sure that they get access to clean air, and to look at ways in which they can protect themselves from being exposed to the smoke in the area, which is there's smoke in the area. It can be from many different fires, so it's not necessarily just from the local fires. So first question is, looks like Canadian Press Vancouver. Go ahead.
Hi there. Yes, thank you. This is Brenna from CP in Vancouver. I'm not sure whether this is best placed with Mike or with the district, but we, of course, today have learned a little bit about some of the infrastructure challenges post-fire in West Kelowna. And we were wondering if you could tell us just a little bit more about the condition of roads. I know there's been some damage to bridges, the hydro poles, just a little bit more about the situation. I know you're still actively fighting fire, but when it comes to recovery, what is the infrastructure in the area looking like?
Mike, if you go ahead and then we'll follow up.
Sure, I'll take my best run at it. So, I mean, I've been in and out of this area. It's certainly challenging to be there. There is a massive amount of damage that the local government has to sort of work with their stakeholders to resolve. I can tell you what I see in there. I can see hundreds of burned hydro poles, and I have to tell you the work that BC Hydro does is extremely impressive. They're in there replacing those, and we're trying to work with the CSRD and ourselves. As soon as a fire moves through, we're always talking about recovery right away and trying to get those infrastructure companies in. But down power lines are everywhere. We have large areas along roads that have danger trees within them that are being removed, in some cases by using processors, heavy equipment and feller bunchers, in other cases by hand falling and hand assessing. But there is a lot of work to do in there for sure. There's all kinds of infrastructure that's damaged in there, and it's going to take some time to recover from that. Again, for us, we're looking at the wildfire. That's what we do. We do try to support the local government though as best we can to allow, when it's safe and when it's reasonable, to allow those other partners and infrastructure companies to get back in. But that I don't know if the CSRD has any more comments on that, Tim or John.
Thank you, Mike. We do want to confirm what Mike shared with you all. There are significant challenges with the road network due to fallen trees, down power lines, and burned poles. We're working with our partners. BC Hydro is out there working very diligently to ensure that infrastructure is replaced as quickly as possible. And additional crews have arrived, and we're continuing to see more and more resources being dedicated to improving and restoring those essential utility resources.
Okay, excellent. Next question with Carrie Tate.
Hi, sorry, it's actually her colleague, Mike Hager in Vancouver. Thanks a lot. Okay. We're curious, maybe Mike, you can tell us how you have brought locals in. You mentioned some were now counted in that number of hundreds of firefighters. Can you tell me how many and what that process was like?
Yeah, I mean, today out on the line, I believe we have roughly 17. It changes a little bit from day to day, just like all fire, it's a bit dynamic. And so the process really is no different than things we do, regularly within our business, other than, the community needed to do some hurry up organization. But certainly we're always working with local communities, local nations, local firefighters, equipment operators on any fire we go into. In this case, the community took the initiative to get themselves organized, provide their training that is required, work on getting signed up, and then making sure they're safe to be integrated in our line. So for us, it's not significantly different than what we do. I think the real difference here was that the local community and the local government took a hurry up initiative here to try to, work with us a little bit by getting that training done, bringing their locals in and having them really come together to support our effort. And we're very, very grateful for it. As I mentioned earlier, it's not just about the work, it's about the knowledge that these folks have. They're from here, they live on the land, they know what's going on, and so we're grateful to have them.
Sorry, can you just clarify that 17 total have done the training, or do you expect more?
I'm not going to clarify that. I don't know how many have taken the training because we didn't organize nor provide that. that was done by the local government. I think it's roughly 17 that were out on the line today, but it varies from day to day. When we work with local communities, we'll be doing what's called a statutory hire. Sometimes if they have other business to attend to, they may not work every single day. If they have other stuff to do, it's kind of a day-to-day arrangement. With equipment operators, it's a little different, but for ground crews, there's some purview to come and go. Those things are challenging to track. There is a process in the morning where they, we know a little bit ahead of time, maybe the night before, who's coming. They show up, and there's a very strict and regimented safety protocol process they go through, where they meet at our staging area. They get their morning briefing. They're tied in with other crews to go meet the objectives of the day out on our lines within our objective strategies and tactics. So it's really hard to tell, Mike. I'm not trying to deflect the question. Just really, it can be quite dynamic. Sometimes people leave during the day, just like our own firefighters do, if there's injuries or other things. So it's tricky to know the exact number, but I believe it was around 17 this morning.
Okay, and sorry, last clarification was earlier in the weekend, like on Friday, Saturday, was that about the same, or are these new additions to the line?
Yeah, we added a few yesterday and then another batch today, and we expect to add a few more tomorrow. But again, it's sort of up to them. We're happy to hire them and make sure they're safe and put them to work within the workable ground that we have. Right? It's not we have to make sure that we have objectives that are achievable for these folks. So we certainly do right now. So we had the first ones out on the line yesterday, and then another contingent joined them today.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And next up, the new North Shuswap kicker, please.
Hi, my name is Tracy. I just wanted to ask, since Mike, you were just talking about the people who were registered and working a little bit on the lines beside BC Wildfire Service today. Yesterday, you mentioned that these people who were, I wasn't sure if it was the S100 course, if they got their certificate, if they would receive supplies such as food, gas, and water, or feed for their animals, because they do live in an evacuation ordered area? Or is it only the people that are working, physically working, like, for example, those 17 people that are approximately 17 people today, will they get food, gas, water, and supplies, or food for their animals, since they are living in an evacuation ordered area?
Yeah, so I can't speak to food for the animals, and I'm glad you asked this, Tracy. I'm glad to clarify sort of what I said yesterday. Anybody who's working on our line, has to have lunch, they have to have water, and they have to have gas to get to work. So if they're doing that for us, that's what would happen. As far as the rest of the supplies and other issues, I can't really speak to that. Those aren't things that we sort of manage. If they're working for us, though, of course, we're going to make sure that they are able to have a lunch and that they're able to have gas for their trucks that they need to get to work. And we do that no different than we would with our own crews or with the equipment that's working in there. So it's specific to the work that they're doing for us.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that, Mike. And that would bring me back to my last question that I don't feel like I really got a clear answer from yesterday. And this was maybe be directed to the CSRD. And what the people are asking me to try to find out for them is who gave the order to stop the supplies from coming into the evacuation order areas for the people that are on the ground actively helping with BC Wildfire, and the people who have stayed behind to protect their properties. We just want to know who gave the order to stop food and water and gas coming to these people who live here.
Thank you. The area is under an evacuation order. The folks that chose to stay are allowed to do that as adults. The law in British Columbia is that if you refuse a legal evacuation order, you're to stay on your property and you're deemed to be self-sufficient. We do not supply materials to the folks that choose to make that choice. That is standard practice. The process that folks have gone through in getting the training and signing up with BC Wildfire Service to participate in fighting the fire is appropriate and proper, and it's something that BC Wildfire does on a regular basis. But at no time are materials provided to folks that choose to stay in evacuation order areas in defiance of that order.
Okay, I understand that you wouldn't be providing the supplies, but there are many locals who have friends and family members that are trying to make sure that their family is fed and has fresh, clean water and has propane and gas for their generators. We understand that you wouldn't provide it, but why are the people that are trying to send these supplies to them being stopped?
We are required to, as best we can, provide security for those evacuation order areas. And we're not going to take the risk of having third parties enter order areas at all.
Okay, thank you.
Next up is, I believe it's Cameron Mitchell.
Hey everyone, it's actually Sinjin here from CTV. Following up, if we could, on the wildlife, the issue with wildlife being attracted to homes. I guess when people ran out quickly, the food is rotting, they're smelling it, they're coming in. Can you tell me the significance, if you could, of it, how much you're seeing, what you're seeing, and any advice, concerns you have for residents who will be eventually going back or who are back?
Mike, I don't know if you have anything to add, but I know John can talk a little bit to this.
I do. Maybe just before John, I think you've just highlighted one of the things I was asked earlier. This is one of the significant safety issues that is really challenging to deal with. So I'll let John sort of speak to that. But I think, you know, added to the list of significant safety issues that occur within an area like this that are not easy to resolve, not only the, you know, sort of hazard of the material left behind, but also the wildlife themselves. So maybe John, I'll push it over to you, but I did want to add it to the list of downed power poles, damaged bridges, broken infrastructure, dangerous trees. Wildlife is on that list as well.
Excellent. I'll get John to take the answer. If there's any more questions for Mike, otherwise I will let him go after this question. So go ahead, John.
Thank you. And in response to what was identified by the first responders and in ensuring as best we can the safety, we are having some waste receptacles taken into Celista Fire Hall, the Scotch Creek Market, Anglemont, Ross Creek General Store to try and collect some of that waste and dispose of it in safely so it doesn't represent an attractant to the wildlife. We're hoping that will help ensure the safety of the first responders who are in there working so hard. That is for food waste. It's not for the fridges and freezers, which will come later. The CSRD EOC is actively working on a program and plan to address fridges and freezers, and we'll have that communicated to the public as soon as we can.
Okay, and it's interesting. A couple things came up that they could. You don't think of it, of course, as food being able that they will be able to smell food that's in a freezer or a fridge, but clearly they can. And also, I didn't realize that it's having an impact on firefighters as well, or it might. That is a concern. If you could, please elaborate on that.
The concern we have for the firefighters is the one that Mike raised, and that is that we're attracting wild animals in larger numbers to these areas. So the best we can do is to remove as much of the food waste that is an attractant to these animals to help ensure that the first responders have one less risk or one mitigated risk that they have to deal with.
Any further questions for Mike McCulley? Otherwise, we'll move along with our update. Mike, you can go off the line if you like. I know you're a busy guy, so you can get back to other things.
Hey, thanks very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot. And now I'll just hand over. I'll admit that the media and those sets of questions prior to have taken a good amount of the steam out of John's update here, but we do have a few things to update. So over to John MacLean, who is the director of the Emergency Operations Center here at the CSRD. He's filling in for Derek Sutherland, who is taking a break today.
Thank you very much, Tim. So as Tim did allude, these were some of the points that we wanted to address in my briefing today, but I did want to note a couple important things. The emergency operation team will be reaching out to the property owners in the North Shuswap who have had losses in their structures. We're gathering the information and we'll start that process today. So everyone will be contacted over the next little while. And secondly, for those who are accessing emergency support services, that renewals are coming up, and to ensure that you contact a reception center to get renewals so you continue to receive those very important supports. Thank you, Tim.
All right. Thanks a lot, John. So we'll now invite any other remaining media questions for John. If there's anything, please put your hand up. While I'm waiting, I will just go over a few other things. Please follow the CSRD's web and social media accounts for the latest updates, or you can call the CRD's EOC, which is 250-833-3350. And our emergency support services is 250-833-3360. And I don't see any questions popping up for John. Oh, there we go. Marcello Bernardo with CBC. Go ahead. Hi, Marcello. You can go ahead if you'd like. There you go.
I'm unmuted, but hopefully you can hear me okay. Okay.
We're getting quite a strong echo from you there, Marcello. Maybe you have two devices on perhaps, or your speaker is on the other side. I'll just go to Carrie Tate and we'll come back to you, Marcello, when you figure that out. Carrie Tate, go ahead. And I'm sorry, I forgot who was on that line.
All good. It's Mike again, using Carrie's invite. Sorry, John, could you just explain whether the regional district helped facilitate that training with locals in the Wildfire Service, or if you played any role in kind of getting them to the line today and yesterday?
Oh, that was largely a BC Wildfire Service initiative. They reached out and talked to the community. The CSRD's role when we had our conversation with BC Wildfire Service is one of support, and we're looking at how we can build this program out into the future to make this a more permanent feature of firefighting here in the Columbia Shuswap Regional District. We offered support. We arranged as best we could to ensure that the trainers and the people had access to the areas that they took the training in. But it was largely and thankfully to the efforts of BC Wildfire Service.
Great, thank you.
All right, I put myself on mute. My apologies. Marcello Bernardo, if you could go ahead and give it another attempt. Doesn't look like we're getting a signal from you, any audio.
Can you hear me now?
Getting a lot of feedback still.
I'm dialed in by phone. Does that help at all?
No, we've lost your audio, Marcello. We'll have to stop there if there's any more questions. Otherwise, we will wrap up. Just an update on our community update that we've been providing on a daily basis. You'll have noticed that it hasn't come out this morning. We will be putting it out this afternoon and beginning in the afternoon from now on. So you'll see that update coming your way soon. And we'll also be putting a video out on some videos out on some firefighter work that's going on and danger trees work that's been going on as well in the next 24 hours. So watch for those on our social accounts and on YouTube. So I'd like to thank everybody for joining us so do take care of yourselves out there. Make sure you're supporting each other. Make sure you're getting some time off or time away if you need it. Thank you very much.